Did you know that the most photographed man in human history, a guy who owned a massive private amusement park and casually bought the publishing rights to the Beatles' entire catalog, was actually just someone who desperately wanted to play on a slide like a normal kid? Today, we are opening the files on the king who wore the brightest, most dazzling crown, yet sat on the loneliest throne imaginable. Welcome, comrades, to the BrainBoost English Podcast. This is the place where we learn English through the craziest, most unbelievable roller coasters of history. Now, I want you to relax. Close your eyes and imagine you are standing on a glowing, light-up dance floor. The air around you reeks heavily of strong 1980s hairspray. The booming bass of the music is vibrating right through your chest, and over there, sitting quietly in the corner of the room, is a chimpanzee wearing a tuxedo, judging you with its absolute side-eye. Welcome to the wildly eccentric and utterly fascinating world of Michael Jackson. To truly understand this incredible and tragic story, we cannot simply start at the top of the mountain. We have to rewind the tape and go all the way back to a small, crowded, and impoverished house in Gary, Indiana. Imagine a tiny, gritty steel town where dreams usually rust away before they even take shape. Here, we meet the Jackson family. And more importantly, we meet the patriarch, the father figure, Joe Jackson. Now, Joe was a steel mill worker with a failed music dream and a fist made of actual steel. When he realized his kids had musical talent, he did not just gently encourage them like a normal parent. Oh no, he decided to build a ruthless pop music boot camp right in his living room. Michael was the seventh of 9 children, growing up in a house no bigger than a modern 2-car garage. While normal kids were out scraping their knees, playing hide and seek, or eating dirt for fun, little Michael was sweating indoors, rehearsing complex dance moves until his feet literally blistered. Joe Jackson was a terrifying manager. He sat in a chair with a thick leather belt in his hand during every single rehearsal. If you missed a step, if you hit a flat note, or if you simply looked tired, you did not get a timeout. You got the belt. It was a brutal, fear-driven environment. But ironically, this ruthless pursuit of absolute perfection forged one of the greatest, tightest performing machines the world has ever seen, the Jackson 5. They exploded onto the music scene like a supernova. Michael, barely out of diapers and still missing his baby teeth, was singing with the deep, soulful, and agonized voice of a 50-year-old heartbroken man. It was uncanny. They churned out massive hit after hit. ABC, I Want You Back, I'll Be There. The money started pouring in like a flash flood. The crowds went absolutely wild, chasing their tour buses and screaming until their lungs gave out. But here is the catch. And it is a massive one. You cannot force a child to work around the clock like a full-grown adult without breaking something incredibly fragile inside them. Michael was entirely stripped of his childhood. He never had sleepovers with friends. He never went trick-or-treating on Halloween. He never just got to be a regular, carefree kid. He later confessed that he would look out the window of the recording studio, see children playing in the park, and just cry his eyes out. This massive void, this gaping, empty space in his heart, planted the deep seeds of what psychologists call the Peter Pan syndrome. Deep down, he became the boy who would never, ever want to grow up. He was trapped in a state of arrested development, but physically, time marched on, and he had to grow. Fast forward a few years. The cute little boy with the giant afro grew up, went through an awkward teenage phase, and the Jackson 5 era naturally started to fade. Michael decided it was time to fly solo and cut the umbilical cord from his family band. A lot of people doubted him. They cynically thought he was just another washed-up child star who had passed his expiration date. But Michael had an ace up his sleeve. He hooked up with the legendary genius producer Quincy Jones. Together, they dropped an album called Off the Wall. It was a sheer masterpiece, a critical and commercial smash hit that ruled the disco clubs. Yet, when awards season came around, it only won 1 Grammy. Michael was absolutely furious. He felt completely robbed and disrespected by the music industry establishment. He made a silent, burning promise to himself right then and there. His next album would be so astronomically massive, so undeniably huge, that nobody could ever ignore him again. He wanted to create an album where every single song could be a hit single. And boy, did he deliver. Enter Thriller. In 1982, Thriller did not just drop. It detonated like a cultural atomic bomb. It was not just a pop album. It was a global phenomenon that reshaped the entire entertainment industry. Every single track felt like a guaranteed #1 hit. Michael flawlessly blended pop, rock, and rhythm and blues into a magical sonic potion that the whole world immediately became addicted to. And then came the music videos, or as Michael stubbornly insisted on calling them, short films. You have to understand the context. Before Michael, MTV was a brand new television channel that mostly played boring videos of white rock bands standing around playing guitars. They actually blatantly refused to play black artists, claiming it did not fit their format. But Michael Jackson's videos for Billie Jean and Beat It were so visually stunning, so cinematic, and so completely revolutionary that MTV had absolutely no choice but to surrender and play them on a heavy loop. He single-handedly kicked down the color barrier on national television, paving the way for countless artists of color. And we absolutely cannot talk about this golden era without mentioning the moonwalk. During a live, nationally televised special in 1983 celebrating Motown, Michael performed Billie Jean. Dressed in a sequined black jacket and a single white glove, he suddenly slid backward across the stage as if gravity had just taken a coffee break. It was smooth, it was flawless, and it looked completely impossible. The live crowd absolutely lost their minds. That single, 3-second movement cemented his permanent status as a living god of pop culture. The level of fame he achieved during this time is almost impossible to accurately explain to someone living today. Today, we have internet virality, fleeting TikTok stars, and easily manufactured Instagram influencers. But Michael Jackson was universally, monumentally famous in a world before the internet even existed. He was aggressively mobbed by fans in Tokyo, chased down the streets in London, and worshipped like a literal deity in Brazil. He was making an obscene, almost fictional amount of money, raking in millions upon millions of dollars in record sales and unprecedented endorsement deals. He was casually hanging out with presidents, royalty, and the highest of Hollywood elites. He had reached the absolute, undeniable peak of Mount Olympus. But as they say, the air is very, very thin at the top of the mountain. And when you have that much unlimited money, that much unchecked power, and you are constantly surrounded by yes men who never, ever dare to tell you no, things are bound to start getting weird. Remember that deeply missing childhood we talked about earlier? Well, Michael decided that since he was now the richest and most powerful entertainer on the entire planet, he was finally going to buy his childhood back, with interest. This brings us to the major turning point of our incredibly dramatic story. The unimaginable wealth started to fuel a series of decisions that utterly baffled the general public. He was no longer just the undisputed king of pop. He was actively transforming into a bizarre enigma, a walking puzzle that no one could seem to solve. He began to drastically change his physical appearance, his living environment, and his entire reality. But what exactly happens when a mortal man tries to rewrite his own timeline and play God with his own life? How does the brightest, most massive star in the universe start to tragically collapse under its own immense gravity? We are about to dive headfirst into the bizarre, the unbelievable, and the downright tragic chapters of Neverland Ranch. But before we open those heavy golden gates, let me ask you one question. So, Michael had all the money in the world. What does a billionaire with the emotional maturity of a 10-year-old do? He buys a massive 2,700-acre property in California and transforms it into his own personal, literal magic kingdom. He named it Neverland Ranch, after the mythical island where Peter Pan and the Lost Boys never have to grow up. This was not just a big house with a nice swimming pool. It was a fully functional, ridiculously extravagant amusement park. It had a giant Ferris wheel, a merry-go-round, a bumper car ride, and a private movie theater stocked with endless candy. It even had its own full-scale zoo featuring tigers, elephants, crocodiles, and snakes. And let us not forget his best friend, a chimpanzee named Bubbles. Bubbles was not just a simple pet. He was treated like a VIP celebrity. He wore custom-tailored designer outfits, reportedly learned to use a normal human toilet, and even drank tea with the mayor of Osaka during a tour in Japan. You literally cannot make this stuff up. But as Michael built this isolated fantasy world, his grip on reality seemed to steadily loosen. The media, which once worshipped him as a flawless musical genius, suddenly realized that mocking his eccentricities sold way more newspapers, and Michael, frankly, gave them plenty of ammunition. A photo mysteriously leaked of him sleeping inside a futuristic, glass, hyperbaric oxygen chamber. The tabloids aggressively claimed he did this because he wanted to live to be 150 years old. There were bizarre rumors that he actively tried to buy the skeletal remains of the historical Elephant Man just to keep in his living room as a conversation piece. The British press ruthlessly slapped him with a cruel nickname that would haunt him forever, Wacko Jacko. At the exact same time, his physical appearance was undergoing a dramatic, shocking metamorphosis. The handsome young black man from the Thriller era was slowly vanishing. His skin became progressively, blindingly white. Now, he later explained on national television that this was due to a real, uncontrollable medical condition called vitiligo, which completely destroys skin pigment. But the cynical public and the cruel tabloids accused him of intentionally bleaching his skin because he was deeply ashamed of his race. Furthermore, His face was constantly shifting through multiple drastic plastic surgeries. His nose became dangerously thin. A prominent cleft was suddenly carved into his chin, and his cheekbones looked sharp and artificial. Psychologists have heavily theorized that every single time Michael went under the surgeon's knife, he was desperately trying to carve away any physical resemblance to his abusive father, Joe Jackson. He was literally trying to erase the face of his trauma, one risky surgery at a time. Then came the 1990s and the early 2000s, and the quirky eccentricities shifted into something far darker and more legally perilous. The boy who never wanted to grow up naturally surrounded himself with other children, frequently inviting young boys to stay at Neverland Ranch, sleep in his bedroom, and watch movies all night. To Michael, in his deeply fractured and naive mind, this was perfectly innocent, just a group of kids having the sleepovers he was violently denied in his youth. To the rest of the normal, adult world, and more importantly, to the police, it looked like a massive, blazing red flag. Devastating allegations of child abuse surfaced, first in 1993, which was eventually settled out of court for an astronomical sum of money, and again in 2003, which led to the absolute circus of the trial of the century in 2005. The media-feeding frenzy was entirely unprecedented in modern history. News helicopters relentlessly circled the skies above Neverland. Pundits tore his character into tiny pieces on live television every single night. The untouchable king of pop was suddenly fighting desperately for his absolute freedom and his legacy. Although Michael was eventually found not guilty and completely acquitted on all charges in 2005, the damage was permanent and totally fatal to his spirit. The brutal trial completely broke him. He became a ghost, a wandering, heavily medicated exile drifting between different countries in the Middle East and Europe to escape the piercing, judgmental stare of the American public. And here is the most baffling part of the entire cause and effect chain. Despite having sold hundreds of millions of records and earning billions, the man was completely, fundamentally broke. How do you bankrupt a billion-dollar pop empire? Well, maintaining a massive private zoo costs millions. Settling endless lawsuits costs millions. Buying solid gold statues and diamond-encrusted gloves on a random Tuesday afternoon costs millions. He was bleeding cash rapidly, relying heavily on high-interest loans just to keep the electricity running at Neverland. The ultimate, glittering symbol of his massive success had become a gigantic financial black hole that was sucking the life out of him. By 2009, Michael Jackson was completely cornered. To forcefully pay off his crippling mountains of debt, he reluctantly agreed to perform a grueling series of 50 massive comeback concerts in London, appropriately titled, "This Is It." The pressure placed on his shoulders was unimaginably immense. He was 50 years old, incredibly frail, emotionally shattered, and physically exhausted beyond human limits. To cope with the overwhelming anxiety and the severe insomnia that plagued him every night, he relied heavily on a terrifying cocktail of dangerous prescription medications. He was desperately searching for the one simple thing he could never truly find: peace and a good night's sleep. Tragically, on the 25th of June, 2009, just weeks before the first concert was scheduled to begin, the curtain fell permanently. Michael Jackson suddenly died of an acute overdose of a powerful surgical anesthetic called propofol, carelessly administered by his personal physician. The shocking news literally crashed the internet. Global servers for Twitter and Google melted down completely as billions of people simultaneously searched for his name, globally mourning the sudden, devastating loss of the ultimate musical icon. So, what is the grand, satirical, and slightly bitter lesson here at the BrainBoost English Podcast? Michael Jackson spent his entire life writing beautiful, sweeping anthems like Heal the World and deeply emotional pleas, asking us to look at the man in the mirror. He possessed an unparalleled, almost supernatural ability to heal millions of sad hearts worldwide through his infectious rhythm and his angelic voice. Yet, he was utterly incapable of healing the deeply broken, frightened child hiding inside his own mirror. He proved undeniably that you can buy the Beatles' entire music catalog, you can buy a private zoo full of tigers, and you can even buy a brand new face, but you absolutely cannot buy a time machine to rewrite a stolen, painful childhood. The world enthusiastically handed him a golden crown, but it was brutally lined with the sharp thorns of immense pressure, relentless media scrutiny, and unbearable, suffocating isolation. He aggressively built the ultimate fantasy fortress to hide from his pain, but reality is a brutal bill collector, and it always eventually kicks down the front door. Thank you for tuning in to this incredibly heavy but wildly fascinating episode of the BrainBoost English Podcast. If you enjoyed learning real, raw English while diving deep into the dark, hidden side of pop culture history, make sure you aggressively hit that subscribe button, leave us a glowing 5-star review, and share this unbelievable story with your friends. Until next time, keep your feet firmly on the ground, do not ever buy a chimpanzee, and always remember that human history is way crazier than any fiction. Peace out.